Hi, everyone. Welcome to part two of our series, Leveling Up, where we're going to talk about networking.
Let's start off with corporate perspective. Are they embracing diversity? Number one. And then number two, in terms of us embracing diversity of people and talking to others about salary and asking questions about jobs, like what does that diversity look like on both sides? And what I'm really trying to get at is mentors versus advocates and how we get into that conversation.
Yep. So those gonna be two separate, but let me start with
Yeah.
peer to peer. So first of all, white people talk about their money all the time, especially white men. They have no problem sharing salaries. I just bought a boat. It's $50,000. It goes this fast. Like they're all about this life.
Yeah.
And it's in our community, have created this sense of you don't tell people your business. You don't tell them your politics. You don't tell them your religion, and you don't tell them how much money you make. Those are the three things we don't talk about. And I'm like, well, that's why we're in the position we're in, because we don't share knowledge enough. On top of that, we definitely don't share knowledge outside of our race. We keep whatever we have going on internally. And so what ends up happening is if we do talk peer to peer, chances are I'm talking to another Black woman who's also probably underpaid. I'm underpaid. So now how are we really helping each other? I have over the years built some real strong white male allies who work in my field and who have worked above me, alongside of me, different levels. And so when I do get offers or I am looking, before I say yes to an offer, I absolutely will call them. I'm not going to tell who they are because they might log in. I'll just use JB as an example. In my last role, I text him, and he used to be one of my old managers. And I was like, hey, here's the offer. Does it seem good? And he flat out was like, nah, you can get more on base. Here it is. And your bonus should be along these lines. I went back and asked for exactly what he had advised. And that's what I got. And so I think it's kind of this thing where while we do want to have sisterhood, right? We want our circles to really be able to support and to be able to lean on and build a network within. But we also want to have diverse partners who, especially white men, unfortunately, white men who want to support us and they don't really know how. And they flat out say, what you need? How can I help you? You can help me negotiate this offer. So let's talk it through.
I love that. No, we definitely need to be using people, and not maybe not using, but just having advocates around us.
Now we can use them.
Help support.
You said it right the first time.
I was being PC, you know.
You said it right the first time. I have white guys that are good, great friends, and they'll flat out be like, I don't know what to do. However you need to use me, let me know. How can I help? Because they really don't know all the time what we need and what the best form of advocacy is. And a lot of time it's them falling back and not saying anything publicly, but helping to champion something that we have put forward or that we need. And so it is them falling back and being used however we need to use them to progress and equal pay for Black women.
Right. So I do just want to reiterate something you said, and it was like within our communities, like we don't talk about our salaries. And I think sometimes that comes from a shame, like I don't make that much money, or I know I don't make that much and I'm ashamed to even say what I'm making. And so can we just talk about a little bit, like what's your, because I'm very hardcore about sharing that within my own community of women that I work for in tech. But how do we get past the shame? Is it just you got to do it anyway, or like are there any tools that you would recommend just in terms of exercising and practicing that?
Yeah, and I'm very blessed to have the group of girlfriends that I have, and I will say the core at the end of the day is trust, and not so much like I trust you with my life, but more like I trust that you are rooting for me and that you want me to win and I want you to win, and we have this shared commitment that a win for one of us is a win for all of us. And I think that's the root of our my little network and what we do. And so even though we all work in many different fields, some of us we're all in the tech space or media space, but we're recruiting, we're engineers, we're product managers, we're marketers, we're heads of D&I, all different levels. But when I say we do not take a job without talking as a community, we flat out will say, like, here's the offer, here's the job description. I've even had one girl in our group, we helped her rewrite her job description. She flat out was like, here's what I think it should be, and submitted it back to the company, and they accepted it. And so it has to be built on trust, though. If your group has any sense of jealousy or envy, that's not the right group. Not the right
Yeah.
group. And it definitely can't be no shaming. I had a friend, and her last role was being paid too much. And I kept hitting it over her head. Too less, I'm sorry. I'm like, when are you going to leave?
Oh,
Like, it's time to go. You could easily bump your salary up $40,000 by going somewhere else. It's time to go. And I had to step back, though, to realize that there were other things beyond salary that she was trying to accomplish at that organization. And when she was ready and she moved, she went and got exactly $40,000 more when she was ready. So that's the part of it too. It's like you don't want to shame somebody into thinking like, I only want to know what you're making so I can bash you over the head with how little you're making. But it's like, I want to know what you're making so I can know that you're being paid fair. Here's what I'm making. Here's my structure. It feels somewhat fair, but I'm sure I can get more. What do you think? Or I feel like I'm underpaid. Here's what I'm making. How do I do this? And then we can have group discussions on when's your next performance review. Here's how you should maybe consider going prepared to your review this way with your facts on what you've accomplished, right? But it's more being there for them. The other side of it though too is that competing with the Joneses mentality. That mentality that
yeah. We
that
all
mentality
got a Joneses in our family.
We all have a Jones in our family, in our community, And so that's the next thing that we just have to let go of. It is not a competition. If we all don't win, no one wins. That's the way we have to start looking at this. We're trying to change something generational. We're trying to make this different for our children holistically, not just my kids, And so I think that's where we have to collectively as a community get on board with that. And once we do, and actually on our next podcast, this is something that the speaker said, if we all hold ourselves accountable to this, we can shift the culture.
Yes, absolutely. It's like each one teach one. We'll all go on the same stream. I love that. Roz, talk to me in terms of, okay, so we all hear the word mentor. We all want one and think that that's going to benefit us. But sometimes a mentor isn't your advocate. So how do you seek out a champion versus just a mentor?
I say this and I'm ruffling. Y'all take this with a grain of salt, but fuck mentorship. And let me tell you why I say that. We are quick to tell a Black or a brown person, especially a woman, that, oh, they probably need a mentor. What do you mean they need a mentor? We are skilled, we are educated, we develop just like anyone else in a mentor capacity. We'll have some in the workplace, but in terms of my career progression, it's not a mentor that I need. It's an advocate. It's a sponsor. I need someone who can turn around and say, you need to hire Roz because she's a good fit for this role. And I have spent time with her and I'm recommending her. And so when you identify who those sponsors and who those advocates can be for you, usually they're white dudes, just because of the nature of the business that we're in. They usually are. And they're usually someone in a position greater than yours that can make a recommendation or that can have influence on someone who may be hiring you. And so how do you spot those people? Who are they? Is the question that I usually will get. So for me, for example, I'm in talent acquisition. So a sponsor for me might be a head of TA over at a different company, or it might be a CHRO at a different company who I've happened to meet through a couple of interactions. And the difference in asking someone to mentor you and asking someone to sponsor you kind of sounds and feels like, as I move up in my career, there are less and less women of color or women who look like me there. And I do want to continue to be a trailblazer, and I want to continue to break those barriers for my community. Absolutely. You've done that as a white man, or you've done that as a white woman in this space. And I'm wondering if you'll spend time with me over the next 6 months. I'm happy to schedule once a month, once every 2 months, whatever works for you, just to kind of talk about what is that transition into executive leadership looks like. And what you're doing there is creating the social responsibility, so to speak, of this person to know that it's obvious that I'm not represented at the level that you are, and I want to get to that level, and you have. So can we have this relationship? The hope that through that relationship then is that person is starting to understand your value. They're starting to understand what you're capable of, what you can do. So when you decide to go to a company, let's say my next step might be at the company they're at, and I'm needing them to now vouch for me as an VP role, right? There's that relationship there. Or the company is with someone that they're friends with, they golf with on a weekend, and I need to go and they're going to do a backdoor reference with that individual. So it's more strategic with sponsors than it is with a mentor. A mentor is usually someone that you will come across or you will find for the specific skill set that you are working on today, right? If I'm a developer, I'm working on someone that's working with me on my code, or but if I'm looking to go into management, then I'm looking at talking to a director or VP of some sort, right? And so I think it's about figuring out what is your niche, where you want to grow, and then that can help you identify who a sponsor will be. But a sponsor is not someone that just teaches you a skill but won't go and tell their friend, hey, I'm working with this amazing developer and she's great. I think you should really consider her for your opening. That's what a sponsor does.
But they're also going to push you as well, right? In terms
of
like working harder on your craft.
They're going to push you and they're going to give you some real feedback, The hardest thing, actually, my professional coach is who turned into one of my best sponsors. And that was something I did as a Black woman. I thought it was really important for my career, was to have a professional coach. As my title grew, the rooms that I started to be in, they were a lot lighter than what I had been used to at the other levels, right? And so as a Black woman, there's just this harsh reality that communication will always be something that we will have to work on. And not because we can't communicate, it's because our audience in that room hasn't made the adjustment to our communication style. And now, at some point
Raj, you about to send me on this tangent. Okay.
At some point in the near future, I hope our cultural styles are more digestible. And I hope that people will do more research and have more of us in the room, that we don't have to continue to flex or work this muscle so hard. But today we do. And so how I tend to do that is, when I went with the executive coach, that was the one thing that was going to hold me back moving into leadership. Not because I wasn't a good communicator, not because I didn't know how to effectively communicate, but they code this microaggression in the workplace as executive presence. You need to work on your executive presence, right? That's the coded language for this microaggression. Yeah. And so for me, I'm not going to let a microaggression hold me back. I'm just not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work this muscle. I'm going to get good at it. But then while I'm giving you the presence that you want, I'm going to drop my culture in that meeting too. You're going to hear a lot of y'all while we're in this meeting. Yes. I'm not going to say you all. I'm going to hold on to my y'all. And I may even make these presentations more culturally focused. Yes, I'm going to work this muscle to get in the room. But when I'm in the room, I'm going to now bring you a little bit onto my side as well. So we're going to create this mutual respect. We're going to create this clarity that you can understand me and that my points are landing with you. And now I'm going to show you how I would do that and how you're going to come along with me. That was the biggest thing my sponsor taught me, flat out. And that has been something that over the last 2 years, I've seen it just benefit me so well.
All right. So let's move into networking, because I know a lot of people have a fear of doing that. Like, they go to these events and they're standing around and they're getting looked at, and it's like, well, why is she looking at me that way? And it's like getting over this fear of networking with people who don't look like you. Roz, just from your own personal, I don't know if you're an extrovert or an introvert, but have you mastered what it is to walk into a room and how to network?
Yeah. Most people think I'm an extrovert, and I think I kind of am, but I have a lot of introverted ways. I recharge on my own, so it kind of defeats the definition of what an extrovert is, but I'm pretty social. Networking is tricky because it's unpleasant, it's not kind, and it's like you almost like you're walking into a room naked, especially when it's a lot of people who don't look like you. What I will say is there are some things that you can do to make the networking experience a little bit more pleasant. Research it before you go and try to figure out who's going to be there. And so if you can do that, you can probably set up some chats for yourself when you go into that networking event. Yes. So you don't have to just wander the room and look at name tags. I don't know. I make it so awkward because I walk up to people and look dead at their name tag and will be like, hey, Kyle, how's it going? And they'll be like, do I know her? Nope, you don't.
Right.
But so that's one thing you can do. Other thing, always take a friend, man. If you can avoid going to a network event solo, please do. And try to take your extroverted, your wingman, your wingwoman, the person who, if you were going out on the first date, you would have them at another booth down, cracking up. Take that person, because that makes it better. You have to learn to network. But the good thing about 2020 is not like it was 5 years ago, where the only way to network was by walking into a networking event. No, we can do that via LinkedIn. We can do it via Instagram. I can't tell you how many people smart they slide in my DMs on Instagram, and that is
Yeah.
a much better way to get a hold of me than through LinkedIn. There's also some virtual mixers that come up, and that's a good thing for you to try to attend. So you don't have to do it the old school way, but you do have to network. You have to grow your network.
Okay. So then you mentioned LinkedIn, and I'm just curious. Like, I see a lot of times where people they change their title on LinkedIn, and they'll change it to change maker or tastemaker, and it's not specific to any one thing, or diversity champion. Is that okay to do on LinkedIn because you are out there networking virtually? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think it's okay. Let me tell you why. At one point in time, I think my headline was like recruiting ninja, something whack like that. I can't even remember what it was. It was so terrible. What companies are looking for is just personality. I'll be honest. The days of a LinkedIn profile looking so professional, and professional is a loosely, we should use that word very loosely now, because we go to work in hoodies. So let's talk about professional, right? So
Especially, yeah.
LinkedIn personalities, it should show. Your personality should be able to show on your LinkedIn profile. And that's what companies are also looking for. They're looking for, who am I going to add to this culture, and do they have personality? When I see someone's profile that makes them look boring, I'm kind of just like, they're probably mediocre.
It's like dating,
serious.
basically. Yeah.
Like, live it up. I want to see you having a good time. I want to see your profile. Tell me what it is. I'm the change maker. Great. What you changing? Changing cultures? You changing team? What you doing? Now I want to talk to you. You see what I'm saying?
That's the cheat code right there. That's
Yeah,
the cheat
so you
code
want to
right there.
draw
I
them
love
in
that.
with your LinkedIn profile. I read summaries, believe it or not, on LinkedIn profile. I want to see who has like, my summary is so boring right now. It's because it's speaker season, so I got my speaker summary up. But don't worry, I'm gonna tell you all about y'all hiring, or my dog, or my cat, or what else is going on in life outside of what I can do. You can look down and see what my job is and what I'm doing. I want you to at least get some of my personality, so that when you meet me, you didn't have to form such a strong version of who I was in your head that is going to be totally different, to where you can't digest my value because you're so caught up on, oh, wow, she was so different than what I thought she was. I want to remove that thought away from you. I try to make sure on my LinkedIn, on my Facebook, on my Twitter, on my Instagram, you can get enough of me so that you don't have to then determine who I am.
That concludes part 2. I hope you wrote down some gems, and I'll see you next week.